Welcome to Season 4 of the Paleo Post podcast, your one-stop shop for all things human evolution, ancient art, and the stories that connect us all. I'm Seth Chagi, joined by my fantastic co-hosts Genevieve von Petzinger and Dr. George Nash. This season, we're taking you on a journey across continents and millennia, from the mysteries of rock art to the exciting prospects of my upcoming move to Portugal. We'll be chatting with some incredible guests, diving deep into the art and culture of our ancestors, and exploring the cutting edge of paleoanthropology. So buckle up for this season full of discovery, fresh perspectives, and a few surprises along the way. Hit the subscribe button and join us as we uncover the secrets of our shared past and chart new paths for the future. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. We are so glad to be back for Season 4 of the Paleo Post podcast. We are joined by Genevieve von Petzinger and Dr. George Nash. The three of us once again have returned to bring to you the most exciting, interesting, and fascinating topics from the world of anthropology, archaeology that will make you the most interesting person at the dinner table, no matter where you go. Stay tuned for some fun, interesting, and of course, enthusiastic conversations. We have a lot to talk about today as the first episode of the season, and we're going to dive right in with some personal updates about our hosts, and then we're going to get into some juicy details about all of the information. Well, not all, because there's just so much content that we have missed in our time off. Genevieve, ladies first, why don't we start with you? How are you doing?
So well. It's so nice to be back. It's so nice to see your faces too, and just I'm so excited to be reconnecting with all of our viewers / listeners too. Because it has been a busy. How long has it been? Has it been 2 months, 3 months? I'm not
Something
even
like
sure.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I've been on. I've been on a lot of continents. We filmed the last episode, and I've been on planes almost like the whole time. So it's it's been absolutely amazing and wonderful. Also, I just have to acknowledge, I'm really proud of us. Like, this is Season 4. That's huge. This is really cool.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, and it's really nice. I've been getting. I'm always amazed at how many people are like, "Oh, I listened to it." Like, it's really cool too, and people in our field. So I think it's a good sign if our fellow colleagues listen to it. And there's so much they've given us love. It means we're doing our job right? So, but yeah, no, I was gonna say, so one of the, oh my gosh, there's so much we can talk about. My big beautiful dream of a global database is actually really starting to come to life. So that is a really wonderful feeling. I mean, I was just thinking the other day that, because it's been 10 years since I did that TED Talk, right? And it's like I wanted to build the database then. And it was just like, the time wasn't right yet. The tech wasn't there. And it's just been this magnificent convergence of timing and technology and the right partners. And of course, the First Art team is my co-conspirators in lots of good trouble. So it's just, it's just perfect timing to do this really incredible project with some wonderful partners all over the planet, literally. So I was gonna say, I think I've been on 4 continents in the last 3 months, so it's been busy. But the one I wanted to flag, again, we got lots of time to talk about stories. The one I wanted to flag, just because I'd never been there before, is I was in Morocco with Nat Geo, actually, and I guess it was February. So it's hard to even keep track. And now, George had been to Morocco before. I'd never been to Morocco. Fascinating place. Like, again, it's got to be one of the roots out of Africa. Like, it has to be. Like, I know at the moment there's no clear evidence, but I don't know how much looking has been done, if that makes sense. And certainly there's really neat things, like there's 90,000-year-old fossil footprints right up near the northern coast facing Spain. And there's, of course, the Pigeonnier. There's some of the caves there. And I think it's what we were talking, George, we were talking with some of the other folks at the First Art team, which they've got some Neanderthals up there, don't they? In some caves up in the north. Neanderthal bears. So again, people, if there's Neanderthal burials in Morocco, where did they come from? Like, they must have come from Spain and Gibraltar, right? So it's like, there's some amazing work I think we could do up there when it comes to tracking other routes out of Africa and just other ways that, and also just not just out but in, right? Like, because the people forget that, I think, sometimes, which is, it's not just out, it's the out and in. It's the movement of people around the planet, right? And so I think it's where it's fun with the Neanderthals. Super funny story. I was way out at an oasis near the Algerian border, actually, and I connected with a fellow National Geographic explorer while I was out there, who completely different field, but the one we always get mistaken for. He's a paleontologist, which means he actually studies dinosaurs. I'm sure all of us have had that where we're like, I'm a paleoanthropologist, and somebody's like, I love dinosaurs, and I'm like, me too, but I study humans. So I was out there with Nizar Ibrahim, and Nizar is the guy. I think my kids are more impressed with him than with me. He discovered and identified Spinosaurus, which is that crazy huge dinosaur that like swims through riverways in Morocco. So we were having a chat because he works out in the desert all the time, and I was like, well, do you ever see stone tools out there? And he's like, oh yeah, all the time. And I'm like, well, what do you do? And he's like, well, we walk over them and then we go dig up the dinosaur bones. So it's like we're all so obsessed with our own stuff, and I was like, what? There's stone tools out there? It's so casual. And so he's like, oh yeah, no, there's lots of them out there, right? There's lots of relic fields. And then I was like, well, I suppose that's fair, because I was like, I've been in Jordan before, and some of our Bedouin colleagues have told me about big bones in the mountains, and I went, oh, that's nice. Okay, well, let's go look for stone tools. And so then these are heads like exploding, because of course they're probably dinosaur bones, right? And he's like, what? There's bones in the mountain? And I was like, yeah, it's important at the time. So we've agreed that we're going to now start paying more attention to each other's stuff. So George, we've even chatted lightly about going back. And so Nizar's promised he will go show us some stone tools. And in exchange, I've promised when we go back to Jordan, I will ask about those big bones in the mountains that I ignored before.
Mm-hmm.
So
it is one of the most important areas, I think, Jen, that this Moroccan and European thing. And I think really that's going to be the next. Well, it has been looked at by archaeologists previously, but there's an amazing amount of potential for the work that we do, for example.
Right. Well, and I wonder, like, has anybody looked at the walls in a bunch of those caves? Right. Exactly. So that was exactly, I was out there looking at stuff that was a little bit younger, but so more like the Holocene type art. I mean, I think that's the question, right? Is that now I was like, oh, we need to go back. Like, we need to put together like a survey program and go back and take a proper look, because I completely agree when I was, and passing through the Atlas Mountains and just moving through that country, that you're like, oh yeah, this is, you can even see sort of the ways they would have been sort of channeled. Because so for people listening or watching, when you're trying to survey, what you're always looking for is, are there any choke points where people likely had to move through? And with mountain ranges, you're always looking for those passes, right? That it doesn't matter if it's been 50,000 or 100,000 years, those passes were probably still the passes people were using, because mountains move, it's geological. So I think, there's some really interesting potential there. So that's my funny story, though, is how paleontologists ignore those young bones that they're not terribly interested in. In exchange, we ignore the big dinosaur bones. So there we go. We all have our thing. So, but yes, I'll leave it there for now. I know, right? So yes, but stay tuned. Definitely Morocco is an area of future interest, I think, for sure. So,
not to mention, just for anyone who might not know off the top of their heads, who aren't as familiar with human origins as the three of us might be, the oldest modern human is from Morocco. 300,000 years old, Jebel.
Thank you. Yes, I was right near there. I didn't get to go there, but yes, Jebel Hood was right there. Yeah.
Morocco is big on human origins, specifically modern human origins. So I'm sure there's a lot there.
Yeah, they pushed the date back by 100,000 years.
Yeah.
Like seriously, like in a single shot. It was like it went from Homo sapiens, emerged in Africa 200,000 years ago. Oh, and in East Africa, right?
Yeah, in East Africa.
And suddenly, boom, 300,000 years ago on the other side of the continent. So yeah, Thank you, Seth. That was a good clarification that was probably required.
George, how are you, sir?
Oh, I've just got over a cold, and I've got a bit of a tickly throat. So if I start coughing away, please, please, please forgive me. I can't top Genevieve's adventures, I'm afraid. But I thought to myself naively and stupidly that at December time I've got a very, very free and easy sort of 4 or 5 months ahead of me. No. So I've been really busy. It's been one of those times where I've done a lot of field work in 2023, 2024, and some work with Genevieve. And it's writing up time. So that's been my big thing at the moment. So when I saw you last, I was obviously very, very proud to get a book out. And I'm working on it. And this is my stupidity. It came out on the 11th of November. And then on the 10th of December, a month later, I thought, isn't it about time I did the Rock Art of Wales, the prehistoric Rock Art of Wales? So I've written now 100,000 words. I don't know how I've done it, but I've done it. And I've had really great fun of writing the text. I'm now finishing off the Iron Age bit, which is, if any of you are not au fait with the Iron Age, we're talking about the last 1,000 years before Christ. And there's some really interesting sort of sculptured heads with very glum faces, and there's about 15 of them in Wales, but they are pan-European. They go right across Europe, and so I'm working on that chapter now. Just finish it off, but I'm hoping to have the book done. Now, what's been really good fun for me is because I whisper in your ear, folks, I'm an old git. My big problem being an old git is that I have to really plan very carefully when I go up into the mountains, and also diabetes as well. But I have to plan it when I go into the mountains about how far it is, where it is, am I going to find it, and do I take the right provisions with me? So over the last 2 or 3 months, I've been going sort of sporadically every 2 weeks to go and look for rock art. And I think 90% of it I've found, which has been really good news. So that's been one project. Bacon Hole, which I've mentioned loads and loads of times, is now coming to fruition. This is a very quick one, this is. But I'm hoping by June we will have done the excavation, or started the excavation in Bacon Hole. And then we can then publish the results of that, of the work we did in Bacon Hole in 2022 and 2023. So that's really exciting because we've actually pushed back the dates quite considerably in terms of a British Upper Paleolithic tradition. And so I'm really excited about that. And then we just published the paper on the Teasers. Now, if any of you, again, for viewers and listeners not au fait with the Teasers is a big, massive river system in central Portugal. And my colleague Sarah Garfias did her PhD on this. And there's one particular little tributary which attracts us. I don't know why it attracts us, but it's there, called a Crazer. And a Crazer, they found a beautiful engraved horse, pregnant horse, in a running stance, classic sort of Coa Valley type sort of engraving, about the size of maybe 60 centimeters by 40 centimeters on a rock. And it's really been a magnet for people like myself and Sarah and anybody else who's at Nassau, where we teach, to go there on occasions and do a little bit of an expedition. Anyway, 2 or 3 years ago, I think it was just excuse me, just after COVID, Sarah's team, Sarah and a guy called Telmo from the University of Lisbon went to this particular site in the Tejo, in the Crazer Valley, and uncovered a most fantastic sequence of animals engraved on a vertical panel. Don't know how old it is, but the style of the animal is clearly that similar to the Coa Valley. So we're looking at around about 20,000 years ago. So that's now come to fruition. So I'm really chuffed about that. And then about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I had the pleasure of working with Peter Robinson from the Bradshaw Foundation. And we did an excursion to 4 absolutely fantastic caves. And I must say, if they are listening to this, a big thank you to the cave owners and the cave monitoring authorities who allowed us to go in there and have unbridled access to the cave systems. The caves were Nihar, Cova La Victoria, and one I really enjoyed was Palata. And Palata is what they call the Lascaux of the South. So anybody traveling from anywhere parts of the world to Spain, interested in rock art, get yourself to Palata. It's a cracking cave, and also to Nearha as well, because they have their potential Neanderthal paintings. And I know you were very interested in the stuff that you were looking at, Jen. So we spent about 4 or 5 days going around the landscape, obviously drinking plenty of beer and wine, of course. But we did get access to the 3 levels in Palata, and I was just, as I would be, absolutely stunned by the most beautiful, exquisite rock art I think I've ever seen, in certainly in that part of the world. And then finally, it just goes on, doesn't it? And finally, about 2 or 3 years ago, I was involved in an amazing project, which again Genevieve's been involved in Altamira, and I dare say Genevieve will be talking about Altamira in a bit more detail. But again, for those of you who are not au fait with Altamira, Altamira is really a very important pinch point within the study of rock art. So in the 1880s, it was discovered, it was promoted by the owner. The scientific committee said it's fake, and the guy who promoted it was very upset about it. It was claimed that his cousin had done it. Anyway, by 1902, it was verified, thank goodness. And by, I think, a year or so after that, the Abbey Royal went down there. It says, oh, this is art, this is art. And what we've got there, if any of you don't know, is an amazing ceiling with bison, sleeping bison, horses, running bison, or everything you wanted to see on a Paleolithic cave fresco, but on the ceiling rather than the walls. And so we were given, again, unbridled access to go in there and sample. Now, again, again, Jen will probably go into more detail on this, but we know that it's the second time, or maybe the second or third time, that there's been access allowed to sample the cave ceiling. And Alistair Pike, colleague of mine from Southampton, he did it in 2012, or published the paper in 2012 for his team. And they had dates of Magdalenian, as you'd expect, but they managed to push the dates back to the Aughnation. So we're looking at the early Upper Paleolithic, which is fantastic news. So we went in there with 2 rationale. First of all, to do our own dating, but also to quantify and support Alistair's dating methodology. Did the 2 dates come together? And bang, bingo, they did. Now, this is in advance of a really big problem with Altamira, in that we reckon, and this is not me talking, this is what the cave authorities are saying, is that the cave cave ceiling is liable to collapse within a lifetime. And so there is a rush to try and extract as much scientific information, obviously non-invasive if possible, to record and date and do all the things that you need to do in that cave in case that horrible event happens. So we've been in there doing that. We've got other things to do there, I dare say, at some point in the distant future. But that's been really exciting because we've actually published the paper last week. So if anybody wants to read about that paper, you can go online, just type in Quang Feng Shao. Now, Quang Feng Shao is a very good colleague of ours. He did his PhD in the Sorbonne in Paris. He's a Chinese specialist. Chinese dating specialist who deals with uranium thorium dating, and so his name is on the paper. He's the lead author on that paper with Hipólito Corrado from the First Art team. And again, all the First Art team were involved in the project, of course, but just a remarkable project to be involved with. And it's one of those things, Jen. I can remember when a colleague of ours, she said when she went to a particular cave, she cried because of the the awe-inspiring views that she had of the rock art. And I think even I was struck down when I just getting to the cave entrance. But just remarkable, absolutely remarkable rock art. And there's been some really very good work done in there so far. But we are the second or third team to go in there to do dating. So I'm really pleased about that. Anyway, that's me.
Well, no, it's good. But I think though, since we're talking about Altamira, we might as well just roll into it and finish talking about it while we're talking about it. So, for anybody with pop culture interest, a movie starring Antonio Banderas actually was made about Altamira.
Yeah.
There we go. If you want to know sort of the popular version of the story, but the Spanish seem to generally approve of that version, so I think we're okay. I mean, I think the big thing is, so Altamira is traditionally, so there's all these amazing bison on the ceiling, and they're all like, the quality of the art is shockingly good. Like it's wildly good, and it's using almost like 3/4 perspective, so it's actually using the little rounded areas in the cave as the shoulders of the bison. So it's actually using the medium of the cave to enhance the three-dimensionality. Like, it's wild. And the ceiling's only what, like 1.5 meters above
That's
ground?
right. So there's a very famous picture, in fact, Jen. I've got to mention this one, because the Abbey Royal is always smoking. He's always had a fag in his mouth, cigarette in his mouth, and you can see him lying on the cave earth, looking up. About, I would say, and I'll go in American measurements, but about 1.5 foot, 1 foot 6 inches from the ceiling, having a fag and looking at the art, and just classic broil pose.
Oh, it totally is. Well, and I think so. Yeah. So for our listeners, the huge ceiling of bison, of course, has been very well known. It's considered it's on par with Lascaux and with Chauvet. Like, it's one of the 3 main show caves in the world, and so I believe, actually, for the record, too, the last full study of it was done in 1912 by Abbé Breuil. And my understanding is that other than letting, people, and specifically like Alistair Pike and his team in 2012 to do those dates, and again, they have scanned the cave because they've made a 3D replica you can go to. But overall, very little study has actually been done, because they were letting people in the 50s like they did. Nobody knew any better, right? And then they realized, of course, there was degradation, so they kind of shut down the cave, and they've just been taking good care of it, basically, up until now. And so, again, it is a huge, huge honor that our team has been allowed to go back in and work there, first of all. So it's an amazing privilege. Going in any cave is a privilege, but there's just something extra special about Altamira, isn't there? I think there's that piece. For the listeners, a little bit of context. It was traditionally thought that everything in that cave was around 16,000 years old. And that was based on some carbon dates that came off of black paint related to the bison. What Alistair Pike first showed, and which our team has now confirmed, is that some of the geometric signs, just had to shout out, it's the geometric signs, are actually more like 35,000 years. So take that.
As you'd expect.
Little bison. And so that they were partially underneath, so it kind of makes sense, but it's a beautiful ceiling. There's a gorgeous high-res photo from the article, so we'll make sure it gets put up here as well for people to see. So, but I'm just going to say that again, though, for the people in the back of the room, just because it takes a second to wrap your head around it, people were in there 35,000 years ago making geometric signs. 20,000 years later, people went back in the cave and made bison. Like, think about that time depth. That is like Romans times 10. like, isn't that a wild thought to actually think? And of course, one of the things that we would like to go and look at in the future is that there appears to be more layers of decoration than just that. So it looks like it may have been a very important site for multiple culture groups across a very, very long period of prehistory. So all the more reason to make sure that we are able to capture as much of it as we can while we can. I mean, I think it's definitely, it's one of those big honors of a lifetime to get to be a part of a project like that.
I will say, Jen, I think both of us have been very, very lucky in our lifetime, in our career lifetime, to get to some of the most remarkable caves. As I always mention and moan about in these podcasts, I wish I was 30 years younger.
I know, right? Because you're like, there's so many more sites to do. Mind you, the speed at which you could write books, though, dude, that's crazy. Like, you're a machine. How many books have you published? Tell me again how many books. I can't remember. You told me
52 now.
Good Lord!
Wow.
So isn't that wild? Yeah, George is like a
Holy
book writing
cow.
machine.
Wow.
You're making up for lost time, George.
It is over a 35-year, 40-year period. So just put that into context.
I mean, that's more than a book a year. That's insane. So no, you deserve full props for that. But Seth, what have you been up to? We've wandered off to Altamira and we left stuff behind. So hopefully Seth will be getting to come and see some of these sites with us soon too, huh, Seth?
Yes. So I have some exciting news. That is a little. If you've been following along, you might have seen a bit of it. So as many of you know, I've been struggling to figure out what I want to do for my graduate studies and how I want to pursue that and whatnot. And I actually haven't applied to any graduate programs or master's programs or PhD programs until the other week. And I applied to the IMQP Consortium Master's Program, which is this big program in Europe and the EU. And well, I got in, and
of course.
Thank you. And George is involved in that and is a professor at the university that I chose to go to in Portugal, ITP, the Polytechnic University of Tomar. And yeah, I'm thrilled to have this path ahead of me where I can see finally what's going to be happening, and I'm going to get to see these caves for myself and do some real work for myself and conduct my own research at one point, obviously not immediately, but it's the start of a very exciting path and future in what we've all been talking about. And instead of just kind of doing the science communication, I'm going to be, while still doing that, doing my own science. And that's what I've been waiting for years. And things have aligned, and we're going to do it. And so
I feel like we need like some sort of like horns and like party hats. And so no, I'm thrilled for you, Seth. But I mean, I think it's like education is a journey. And I know that there are some people who at 18 walk straight into university. They have a plan, they've got the funding, and they're able to just go, oh my gosh, see, there you go. You got your confetti. It's perfect.
Yeah.
But
perfect.
But I mean, there's also, for people listening, I mean, again, I think education and everything lasts a lifetime, right? Like hopefully you will continue to learn over the course of your lifetime. And for everybody, the path is not always straight and simple. And sometimes you wander off and do side quests, or you could be like me and recognize that I adore the research, but that I didn't think that my life and my skill set was well suited necessarily to being a professor. And so that I decided I needed to go and basically invent my own job.
Yes.
So I could do the research. And I mean, I love talking about it just like you guys do. And then also I really love the technical side. And so I think trying to find, it's taken a while for it to align for me too, right? And so I think that that's where there's nothing wrong with that. And so, I mean, when you were ready to start the journey, whenever it starts, and obviously now is the time for it to start for you. And of course, in case the listeners don't know, IBT is one of the main headquarters of the first art team. So Seth will be officially joining the first art team, which is like, I mean, it's such a great place as well. And I mean, it's part of like, again, that we have universities in Spain and the UK and in China and Germany. And so it's like, it's a very collaborative way to do paleoanthropology. And it's such a lovely place to be a part of because of the fact that it is so collaborative and open. And everybody works together and everybody shares their results. And it's like, it's a really cool thing. So it's to me, it's the way to do science. And so it's nice to have Seth, who's also very into open science and communication. It makes perfect sense you're coming to join us. So welcome to the dark side.
Exactly. I'm looking forward, Seth, when you're teaching me what I need to know about paleoanthropology.
Exactly. To be honest, especially with all your fossil stuff and tools, and oh my gosh, we all have our thing. But
yes,
you might have more. You might have more
dynamic.
news. So carry on. We'll get back to the bones soon. I got bone stuff to talk about, but tell me more about you.
That's really the headline when it comes to me. I feel like it's pretty big news. Leaving the States, moving to Portugal, which I don't. We're not going to get into politics, but let's just say science is dead in the United States, and I'm leaving, and so getting out while I can, being good there, and so that's a bit about the headline for me. I think it's about time. I think our listeners would love if we dove right in. Do you have more?
Yes, talked about headlines. Speaking of, because oh my gosh, there's like so many stories that happened.
Yes,
like I made us an annotated page of stories, like a little document. That thing was 9 pages long.
It's true. So as Genevieve mentioned, we're going to do kind of a rapid fire to catch you guys up on some of the major stories that have happened since the season finale of last season. We're going to save some for the next few weeks, of course, but we're going to start with the story that friend of the show and one of my personal mentors, Dr. Brianna Povner, was heavily involved in. She is if not one of the world's most renowned experts on cut marks and cut marks in bone and stone and whatnot. And she was involved in this study in Romania where they found 1.5 million year old cut marks in bone, I believe is what it was. And this is important because previously, the oldest known marks were 400,000 years old. And while we knew hominins were in Europe prior to that anyway, we had fossil evidence. This is much older than any fossil evidence that we have, especially for this area. Now, when you look at Dmanisi and Georgia and whatnot, we're talking about, I believe, like 1.3, 1.2 million years old. Yeah. That's off the top of my head. So, it doesn't sound like a lot, but 300,000 years is a long time of cognitive development, of cultural development, migration. And so this just shows that there were hominins in this part of Europe that were advanced enough to be using tools to do cutting activities and to procure meat 1.5 million years ago. And I actually heard about this. Well, I saw the cut marks a few years ago. It was pretty cool. Just in a WhatsApp chat on a phone. That was cool.
Isn't that the best when you get these secret stuff?
It is. But then it was officially presented this year at the ABAs after it was published in in Nature. And it was very interesting just because it just pushes back that timeline of when hominins were in Europe. Do we know what type of hominin? No, most likely Homo antecessor, just because that's really the only character we know is around at the time. But as we are discovering, as we'll see with further stories from today, species are appearing in places that we didn't know they were previously. And so who knows who made these cut marks? But 1.5 million years ago, we have cut marks in ivory that show hominin activity, and that's pretty big. And you can learn more on YouTube. I covered it already, and there's plenty that Dr. Popner has covered on it. So please go and view them.
Yeah, well, we can link it in the description. Yeah.
Darren, our wonderful producer, will definitely link everything that we mentioned and talked about in the description for you guys to learn more about.
Well, and speaking of, so now we're going to start our rapid fire news because there's so much. I'm sticking on my smart scientist
glasses. I was about to say, I saw the glasses coming out.
Yeah, the glasses are coming out. Okay.
Here we go.
Getting serious here. Okay, so oh my gosh, everybody, so many stories. It was really fun, but yeah, I hammered my way through a lot of articles to make sure that we could speak knowledgeably because some of them I knew, but I didn't know. So we're going to do this more rapidly, but obviously people are going to jump in when it's your area of expertise or if you have something fun to say. So I wanted to start with the Denisovan jawbone being found off the coast of Taiwan.
Yes.
This is the reason why this story is cool on so many different levels. But I would say, so basically, if you think about where the Altai Mountains is, that's where Denisova Cave is, which is the original spot of discovery of this new species. And then we've got a couple examples now up in the Tibetan Plateau. So if you think about like where Tibet is kind of compared to Russia, Mongolia, because Mongolia is the other side of the Altai there. So that's kind of in that Western Central Asia, but now
we'll have a map
Taiwan.
We'll have a map up.
We'll make sure one is up. Yeah. And basically, this is a hominin mandible, and they were able to do basically what's called paleoproteomics. How's that? Actually, I got that out. Paleoproteomics.
You did.
I know. Thank you. I leaned into it. And so basically, that means that they're doing ancient protein analysis. So they were able to show not only was it Denisovan. And I should point out, every species has slightly different proteins. So they're able to tell Neanderthal proteins from Homo sapien, from Denisovan, from Homo heidelbergensis. Like everyone's are slightly different. And so the beautiful thing is,
can you briefly, because people know what DNA is, can you briefly tell us what proteins are and how they're related to DNA?
Yeah.
So there's no confusion.
100%. Okay. So proteins are smaller and simpler. Like they're shorter and simpler. And so proteins are easier to rebuild. They're not full DNA, so they don't have the double helix in them. It's more like you're rebuilding amino acids, like little amino acid chains. And so, but we have slightly different amino acids than Neanderthals do and the other species as well. And so you're not going to be able to tell, eye color and, like other traits about them, or if they, had spring allergies. Like you're not going to be able to tell stuff like that from the proteins. It's basically more of a yes or no, usually. Like you can tell, is it Homo sapien? Is it, so it's, it's like a species level identifier as opposed to an individual identifier. DNA identifies individuals, proteins identify species. One of the other things they can do, though, is identify male versus female. And so that's huge on a lot of levels. And there's another story we'll talk about where that becomes important as well. So, but it's a fun extra thing, which is that a male Denisovan mandible was found off the coast of Taiwan, which is a long way away, probably a different environment. So again, we've more seen them up in these cold, sort of probably cold, more arid, high altitude environments. And suddenly we have them down on the coastline in Taiwan, which is a very different part of the world, very different climate likely. So it really extended their, like, again, massive extension of their range, basically, which also might explain why there's so much interaction with some of the folks who live down in the chains of islands and who have like, I think, is it the Melanesians that are like 7%, I think, Denisovan?
They have the highest percent of Denisovan DNA, up to 7%. Yeah.
And that's the thing. When you see where Taiwan is, suddenly you're like, oh. But again, so Denisovans may have been all through there. Like, this is the question. And the fact it was found in the ocean is also a good reminder of the fact that ocean levels were a lot lower back then at different points.
Yeah. Can you imagine you're just fishing, like, because that's how it was found. It was a fisherman. He's just fishing,
just, like,
and he
the
pulls
bottom.
pulls up a mandible. That's
so cool.
How old was it?
They said they weren't sure, but I think from what I was reading, it's either somewhere around. It's a really wide range, so I don't know why they think it's so wide. Okay. They said either 10,000 to 70,000 or 130 to 190, and I don't know what. To read down further to understand.
Quite a large range, but
it's a big range. But the important thing is, because they've identified it at the protein level as being Denisovan, I think so that way there's no confusion. Like, it's definitely not a modern human that we're just like identifying by looks. Like, this comes at the molecular level.
Right.
Oh, I know why they were saying that. I think it's according to when the sea levels would have been right. Speaking of sea levels, is that those were 2 points when that area that's now underwater would have actually been above water. And that's why they're saying that. Yeah. So probably just they haven't been able to do any dating on it yet.
Called Sunderland.
Yes, it's amazing. Yeah, Sunderland is went all the way down. It's how the ancestors of the first people in Australia walked down there, and how the folks that went to Indonesia, that's how they got there too, right? Was that it used to be, again, a huge coastal plain connected most of those islands. So very, very different landscape. And it really makes you wonder if Denisovans were living throughout that range as well. Like if they were truly the Asian relative, so to speak, with the Neanderthals in the middle and the north, and then with Homo sapiens hanging around in Africa. It is a very, and then the cross points are such interesting ones, but the big cross points may even be underwater now.
Yeah.
So that's interesting too. Yeah. But I liked that story. That story made me happy just because I find the Denisovans fascinating, and I always enjoy learning more about them. So, because they really are mysterious cousins.
Just one point, maybe you can answer this, but Denisovans is a new thing, isn't it? And I think it's we're only going to get more knowledge thrown our way over the next few years, where because of the new scientific approaches to looking at DNA and protein analysis.
Seth, you do a lot of fossil stuff. Do you remember when did they sequence the genetic material from that finger bone? Was it?
I want to say 2010.
7 years ago? Oh, 2010.
I want to say 2010.
Okay.
Oh my God, it's 15 years ago.
So, it's been a while. But I mean, that's
still
very new.
No, that's not true. That's not true. That was when we discovered the Neanderthal genome.
Okay, that's what I thought. I think I feel like it's more 7 or 8 years ago, but I'm not.
We're basically on the cusp.
Oh yeah, this is a brand new thing, right? Like this is definitely the. Oh, here we go. Oh, I think I found it. Give me 1 second. I'm checking references. Woohoo!
Oh, 2010.
It was 2010.
Yeah, 2010. Okay.
Yes, right there, the Nature article, right? Genetic History of an Archaic Hominin Group from Denisova Cave.
Yeah, Krauss et al. 2010 in Nature. However, that was the mitochondrial genome in 2010. In 2012, they sequenced the full nuclear genome. And I really wonder, because for people, again, who may be listening, we always wonder, who knows what, who doesn't know what, who's an enthusiast, who's a researcher. Denisovans are not a species. They don't have a designation. They're just the Denisovans.
You're right.
They're not Homo Denisova. They don't have a designation. Quote, because there's not enough material yet, but we've named species off of less. We've forced species into categories off of less. I don't know when. I don't know what it takes to name a species at this point, because people do it willy-nilly. So
rising star.
Yeah, well, I mean, Naledi at least though has been called Homo naledi. It's been given a name. I had you. We need a petition.
We should start a petition. I should start a petition.
For our Denisovan cousins deserve recognition.
They do. It's racist.
Seriously, in the actual true sense of the word.
I know, in the true sense of the word.
Yeah, the real version. Oh my gosh, that is so funny. Okay, there we go. Things to randomly, start petitions.
Yeah, I got into an argument with someone yesterday because they were talking about Homo juliensis, which myself and many bio ants don't understand, because it seems to be just kind of a category of bones that just don't fit in other places. So they're like, oh, it's this new species, but there's just random collections of museum pieces. And yet Denisovans who have specific features, DNA.
Yeah. And they don't get one.
Yeah.
I know.
So
it's so funny. Yeah. It's just like, it's so funny. There's a little quirks. Hey, it's what makes the field so fun.
It's an interesting point you brought up, hasn't it, really? Because there is now quite a fair bit of information on Denisovans. And I can't work out why they haven't been given their own
proper scientific name.
Scientific name yet. Yeah. Maybe it's just because it's a type site at the moment. It's a type site at the moment, but I think as time moves on, I mean, the Taiwan thing should actually sort of cement at least an idea that they need their own special scientific name.
Yeah.
Well, and don't forget the Tibetan sites too, right? They have sites in Tibet as well now.
Yeah.
And there's many examples in Asia that most likely are Denisovan. Like Homo longi is either, well, one, they named Homo longi based off of one skull. So again, I don't know how they did that.
Yeah.
The skulls that look like that skull already had a designation Homo daliensis. So they changed it, even though it already, I don't know, bioant people. I'm hoping the art people are a little calmer. We'll see.
With the rock art people?
Yeah,
well basically, see. I mean, I think our group is chill of that. Let's be real. We'll be really neutral about it. Big shout out and love to all of our rock art colleagues. But honestly, I find us very friendly bunch, to be perfectly frank. I've worked with lots of people on lots of different projects, and they're all lovely. So I mean, we definitely have some quirky birds in our field, but they're lovely. I mean, like, the kind of people who want to go hang around in caves all the time, I think you're already getting a certain type to begin with, right? So,
yeah, kind of the vibe, it attracts a certain type of people, regardless.
It is, right? Yeah, I mean, again, and I think, present company included, I mean, that's the thing too. So, I mean, I think we all fit in. So we have time for one more story. And what I'm going to suggest we do is we've talked about Altamira in Spain. We've talked about mandibles in Taiwan and other species. So now let's go to the Americas. And so you remember the White Sands story from last year with the footprints, around 22,000 years old. And you're not going to believe this. They've realized that there's linear traces around, beside, intermixed with the footprints. And so they think that the folks there 22,000 years ago were using travois, which is pulled pole transports, basically, for transporting goods. I'm playing devil's advocate here. Okay.
Real layman's terms. What are we talking about? Because that was some fancy terminology there. I understand what we're talking about, but so a lot of people know what white sands are. They understand there's footprints. What's the new discovery, and what does it imply?
Okay, so travois is a French word. I think that's where I wonder if it comes from Canada and the voyageurs. It could, where I come from, because you never know. But basically, before wheels, right, people still needed to get their stuff around. And so what you often see them do is that they have basically a couple of poles, like saplings pretty much, that they've cut down, and they'll bind them together. And then they almost drag them like a little sled. Or like a backwards wheelbarrow. Instead of pushing in front, they pull it behind, and then they'll put goods on it, or they might put children on it, for instance, or they might fold up their tent material and put it on there. And so it's a type of transport technology, is kind of what it's known as, right? And
it's kind of like what you see, like ambulance or paramedics put people on, but they just one lands on the ground and they drag it.
Yes, literally that. Yeah. So that's a really good way to put it. And so I think, again, the big thing is just that it's not that, I mean, it's cool. I'm not shocked that people had come up with concepts of how to move heavier, bulky things around. I think it's what's really exciting to me about that story is, I mean, again, it's 22,000 years ago in the Americas, which is a bit of a, sort of take that, Clovis.
Yeah, exactly.
But, the Clovis are so dead that they are.
I know. Yeah. So in the post-Clovis era that we're in.
Oh my gosh! I saw a post yesterday. The Silturians may have been the first Americans. Oh, please stop talking.
I know.
Please stop talking.
I know. Well, and again, it probably was people around that time probably did come in, but they're not the Solutreans for France, because France and the Solutreans, it's a very specific tool type for people listening, that there are these Solutre tools, which are these little leaf-shaped tools.
And the whole theory is they sailed across the Atlantic Ocean and came to the east coast of America.
Yeah, which
is the whole deal.
We've just never seen any good proof of that. I mean, again, I mean, never say never, but at this point in time, we just don't have any actual solid evidence of people coming from that side, or there being a land bridge like route that would have matched the boat skills of the time. So I think that that's where it's likely from the Beringia side, as we know. But again, it would make sense. Like people in the Siberian tundra probably also use, again, travois. So that's Travois. It's just a French word, but it refers to that style of kind of the pulling of the poles along. But if they're there again, it thing is just finding evidence, because if they're made of wood, they don't last in the record, right? So again, you normally get your stones and you get your bones, but you don't get the soft materials. But traces left behind is a wonderful clue, and just gives us a little hint that if they're pulling things along, then that probably means they had big, heavy things they needed to take. So again, they could have had fairly big, tent structures that they were taking with them, or they could have been pulling their children or food, or again, it could have been hunters pulling the hunters could have very well been pulling along the it's like sort of a kill and taking it back to a camp. We don't know, but it's just really cool evidence of again, it gives us a snapshot of the people we didn't have before. How's that?
Absolutely. And I love evidence like this, because while, having a skull or having fossils or having bones is so cool, the representations of the living animals or whatever it was, these are snapshots in time. These footprints, these travois marks, they're moments in time that we actually get to see reflected in empirical evidence. You can look at it, you can see it, you can imagine the event occurring. It's not, because most of the time, save extreme cases like Rising Star and other places where the fossils seem to be kind of just laying there where they potentially died or were buried, deposition moves fossils, and something dies somewhere, it doesn't typically end up where it died.
No.
But with trace fossil footprints, it's right where it happened. You get to see and imagine.
It's a snapshot.
Exactly. It's a snapshot. It's a snapshot. You get to see exactly what happened when. Not why, potentially, but big hints depending on what's going on. And footprints, I love footprints, because you can see your own
too. Or even like the ones, like when they've got the ones where there's like, little person footprints beside the grown-up footprints, which always just isn't there an example, I think, in the UK, George, right? Where isn't it where there's Neanderthal children? Neanderthal children playing on a beach somewhere or something, basically, wasn't there?
What I know of, we do have a lovely scene of two adults and a child walking into the Severn Estuary, but it's at a time when this is the Mesolithic, so it's between 4,000 and 10,000 BC, and that was looked at by a team from I think from Lampeter. Martin Bell was the chap who did it, but they were finding a lot of footprints. There was one particular group of footprints where you had a child and two adults, so they're basically holding the hand of the child, and you can imagine, in modern terms, when you can hold your child, you swing the child, you go wee, and then the little child. But it was just lovely. It just brings sort of the human aspect, the humanity aspect to the archaeology.
Well, I think for all of us, like it's being able to almost rebuild that story a little bit, and suddenly it doesn't feel so long ago, does it?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think we basically that's I'll stop there, because otherwise we're going to go wandering off in about 1,000 different directions, and I know Sir George needs to head out here pretty quick, and my own tiny Homo sapiens have suddenly required my attention.
Yes, I think.
But we'll leave our viewers wanting more.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
Guys, I think that was a wonderful first episode for the return of the Paleo Post podcast. Guys, please like, subscribe. There's going to be so much more. There's so many more stories. We're going to have guests this season. We're going to have people on. We're going to be talking. We are going to have amazing things coming from our producer, Darren. Every like, every subscribe, every donation that you make through the little button thing on YouTube, whatever you guys want to do, helps the show, helps us spread the word, the free open access, because in these times of science denialism, it's shows like this that really, and we hear it from you guys. You tell us how much you enjoy it. So we're here, and we're going to share it. So just help us help you. Spread the word.
Totally. Well, again, it's literally like my favorite hour of the week. So,
Right? It is so much.
I love talking to you guys about like my favorite subject, because otherwise, you end up talking to other people and you can tell that you're like, uh-oh, I don't know if they're quite as interested as I am. So it's nice when you find your people who like to talk about the same stuff. And so that extends to our listeners and viewers as well, who are as enthusiastic as we are. So, that's why we're here, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yay. So go season 4. We're back. Woohoo.
Yeah. And I will just add as well, and I think it's my bit of politics, but over the last few months, we've seen the beacon of science being attacked. Not just science, but the social sciences as well, in universities across certain parts of the world. And it is worrying. I'm hoping that the people who listen to this will see that we are a tiny little beacon, a tiny bit of light, a chink of light, which they can escape to and understand the real world.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what we're here for.
And with that, we will be signing off. Everybody, enjoy your week, and we will see you next time.